You've seen it in basically every online gun group, forum, and possibly in every conversation at the range or gun store. There are people who swear up and down by what's good ammo and bad ammo, but there's pretty much no criteria on what makes it so. You're lucky if you even get some comment on whether it's dirty or not. So we're gonna look under the hood at some of the common 9mm cartridges to see if you really get what you pay for. And spoiler alert, one of these ammos was hideously bad.
Squib rod.
Are you ready? Stand by. Welcome to the Humble Marksman channel, the only gun channel here on YouTube dripping with that BDE. That's right, Big Dad Energy. While in the throes of calling your 4-year-old baby T-Rex for the past 6 weeks, did you learn that a brontosaurus isn't a real thing?
What?
Yeah, look it up, it's true.
Remember the brontosaurus? Try and find it now. It's like the Torosaurus. It was a juvenile form of a larger species it grew up to be, an Apatosaurus.
I'm David, and today we're gonna look at some ammo, doing some ammo testing. I took 4 commonly available loads and I put it through a bunch of tests to try and figure out, like, are we getting what we're paying for in an age where you can spend an extra $6 or $7 per box of ammo? So Optics Planet reached out saying they enjoy my videos and wanted to see if they could help me make some more videos. And I said, hey, I've got this ammo test in mind. They were generous enough to be the ammo sponsor for today's video, so all of the ammo that you see was provided through Optics Planet. I really appreciate that, and if you enjoyed this video, let them know on their social media and see what they've got going on. And to be extra mysterious, if you want to join a mailing list of things that might be of interest to you, you can text HUMBLE to 80907 and see what's going on there. If you don't like it, you can always opt out. It's no big deal. So there's a number of different things that can affect ammo, so I'm gonna have to give you a little bit of an ammo appreciation, and some of you bros are way more sciencey than me, but for people who are just kind of skimming the surface, we're going to keep it kind of big picture. You can dive much deeper on what makes good ammo, but effectively what makes a good pistol cartridge is largely consistency. That's going to be the consistency of the components, meaning the case that goes into making the bullets all being the same length. The projectiles are very important, meaning that they have to have the same roundness, or if you want to impress your other range bros, concentricity is the word. The projectiles need to be uniform weight. The powder that's used needs both to be a uniform charge weight and a steady burn rate that is not clumpy or moves around in the case during ignition. And the primer spark length needs to be about the same every single time, and the primer itself needs to detonate every single time. They can't be primers that are harder and somehow don't detonate. And the accuracy is generally going to be determined largely by how much gas is hitting the back of the bullet and how that bullet seals up with the barrel. And of course, we're going to look at just being downright dirty, because that's what a lot of people comment about on the internet. So first and foremost is Federal Syntech 115 grain. If you're not familiar with these projectiles, they use a polymer-coated lead projectile in a truncated cone shape. They're supposed to be for the action pistol sports, but it's a different technology than a traditional copper-jacketed bullet. Next is the Bargain Bins tool ammo, tull ammo, however you say it, 115 grain steel case, non-corrosive, it says, Berdan primed ammunition. This is notorious on ranges because nobody picks up the cases and leaves them there like the trash that they are, and it's lauded as being dirty and hot and inconsistent and all this kind of stuff, so we're going to take a look at it. Next on deck is CCI Blazer aluminum, also sold at very reasonable prices and pretty solid ammo. And finally, Federal Premium Brass 115. This is pretty good 115 grain ammo, typical jacketed round, etc. Now, in testing both of these ammo, I chose a very specific platform for a reason. I chose a double stack 1911-2011, and I've actually picked 2 of them because this one's got the 407 CO optical sight on it, which is great for action pistol shooting at like IDPA distances, not great for 25-yard group shooting. So this is the DS9 Hybrid from Masterpiece Arms. You can see a review here on the channel. And similarly, my carry gun, which has become the Bull Armory TAC 425. It's got a 3 MOA RMR on it as the optical sight, so it is a little bit more precise on a sight picture. So why this gun and not just like a Glock or something like that? Well, for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, the accuracy out of a high-end pistol is generally going to be greater. These have match barrels that are fitted to the slide, so they're generally going to be a little bit more accurate than a typical production gun. And if you've never cleaned a 1911, they've got more nooks and crannies than the Thomas Bakery, so they get dirty really easily. The other factor is that these have very light triggers. This is about a 2-pound trigger on the Masterpiece arms and about a 2.5-pound trigger on the Bull Armory TAC 425. A really nice trigger makes the sins of bad trigger pulls go away and hopefully yields better accuracy. But most importantly, why I chose these style of pistols is the 1911 pistol was designed around the 45 ACP cartridge, so 9mm 1911-2011 style pistols are known to have issues feeding some projectiles. As far as cost is concerned, if it has shown us anything over the past couple years, it's highly volatile. So the Federal Premium Syntech 115 grain currently on Optics Planet is selling for $22.99 per box of 50. Federal Premium brass casing 9mm 115 grain is about $20.99. Tula FMJ steel case is sitting at $16.99, and Blazer aluminum is sitting at also $16.99. There's about a $6 per box swing from the cheapest ammunition used to the most expensive ammunition used. We'll see where that goes. So I got started with measuring 20 cartridges from each lot of ammo just to see how they stacked up as far as their physical dimensions are concerned. The reason we're checking that is because the way that a bullet works is the base of the bullet to the bottom of the casing creates a combustion chamber, and that is going to affect how the gunpowder ignites with the amount of pressure that it puts out. So you want that combustion chamber to be the same size on every single round. Interestingly enough, it was one of the least expensive ammos that was built to the most strict standard. It was the Blazer aluminum. At just under 0.02 of an inch standard deviation and an extreme spread of just under 0.06 of an inch. Now, we talked about bullet technology because the Syntech round is lead coated, and one thing about lead projectiles that are not jacketed is that they're a little bit inconsistent. Any practical pistol shooter you know who shoots coated lead will tell you they vary greatly in how they come out of the mold sometimes, or how the coating kind of stacks up on the projectile. Sometimes it's a little bit thicker on the tip or something like that. So Syntech was the least uniform in overall length. From there, we put it onto a chronograph to see what was going on with the ammunition. So it's worth mentioning that the Scarlet Scuderia DS9 has a 5-inch match fit barrel to the gun. So it's gonna get the best velocity out of a pistol short of something obviously longer than a 5-inch barrel. All of these measurements are taken using my LabRadar chronograph, and they are from the muzzle. So the fastest cartridge that we tested was the 1178 foot per second Federal Premium Brass. The slowest projectile that we tested was the CCI Blazer aluminum at 1145 foot per second. What's possibly more important than speed is consistency. So I shot 15 shots across the chrono, got readings on all of them. We look at the standard deviation and the extreme spread because this becomes more important. It affects your accuracy due to the consistency we already talked about, but also there's kind of a phenomenon where you take 3 standard deviations above or below, and if that's within acceptable range, then you're good to go. The most consistent ammunition was actually one of the cheapest ones. It was the Blazer aluminum with a standard deviation of a staggering 7.4. The extreme spread across 15 shots, and this is also very impressive, guys, was only 24 foot per second, which is pretty darn good. The Federal Brass was also very consistent with a standard deviation of just over 9 and an extreme spread, also a respectable 31. But that's not necessarily true with the worst performer, which you probably guessed already was the Tula ammunition, which had an extreme spread from the fastest projectile to the slowest projectile of 97 foot per second. And the standard deviation was not a single digit like the other loads. Oh no, it was bigger than the extreme spread on our CCI Blazer. Moving on to accuracy, and since I don't have a ransom rest or anything like this, all of these were shot sighted offhand by me at 25 yards using these targets from Optics Planet, which if you're zeroing your pistol, these are really great targets for it because the high contrast, they work with iron sights, they work with red dots. So thank you Optics Planet for these targets. I'm actually going to be using these in a lot of videos that you see coming forward. Now, I am not the best group shooter. My biggest issue is not so much pulling the trigger straight to the rear, it's holding the gun steady enough to aim well enough to shoot small groups. So for me, a typical group is about 3.5 inches from a gun such as this, and I was able to get that with all ammunition that I tested, including the Tula, despite being very, very inconsistent. You bullseye guys can go out and do your own testing. You're better than me at shooting groups, okay? I'm over it. The most accurate interestingly, talking about the bullet technology earlier, was the Federal Syntec 115 grain, where I shot a 2 3/4 inch group. To me, if I can get a sub 4-inch group out of this ammo, that is good enough at 25 yards for most pistol applications. So all the ammo passes with flying colors at accuracy. Now we get to talk about reliability, and this is where it gets fun, and I teased it earlier in the video. I won't even dance around this, guys. All of the ammo I could get to feed, and it was super reliable, no failures of any kind, except with Tula. And I have not even seen this with Tula before, because primers were popping out of the pocket. And I caught this in slow-mo. You can watch the casing eject from the gun and the primer ricochet forward out of the gun. You can see it in slow-mo, which is kind of wild.
A primer blew out of the case and caused a jam with the Tula.
This failure rate happened about 5% of the time. I had over 10 stoppages of the gun.
So I had another primer blow out. This is the third one in less than 60 rounds. I don't know how many of these this is, but there's another primer that's blown out.
And this is not like, well, it's good to practice training and cleaning malfunctions. Like, bro, nobody has remedial action where they have to get their pocket knife out of their pocket and dig primers between the trigger bow and the frame of the gun out through the ejection port. That's not a remedial action anybody wants to train. That's just a huge failure. I even had to get my squib rod out because the primer blew out of the case, but the case was stuck in the barrel, so I had to use the squib rod to knock the case out of the barrel.
That's a new one. Primer blew out, failure to extract.
It's absolutely crazy. Now, Optics Planet included everywhere I've seen these ammos on sale. The aluminum case is the same as steel case in 2022. Why would you buy steel cased if there are better options available? But even if there weren't, I mean, if it's $1 per box premium, it's worth it, because nobody wants to lose time on the range fixing primers blowing out of their cases. That's just crazy. So I would enthusiastically not recommend the Tula steel case. Now, I've shot a lot of steel case too. There's other makers that make, I guess, more reliable steel case, but this Tula, I would give it some time for this lot to get through the market before giving them another shot. Getting on to cleaning and dirtiness and all this kind of stuff, there wasn't really a tremendous difference between the dirtiest ammo to the cleanest ammo. As you can see on the screen, 2 of the ammos, I only used 1 Q-tip to clean, not because I ran out of Q-tips, but because the rails were so clean it just didn't bother needing that second Q-tip. It didn't take wildly different to clean the dirtiest versus the cleanest. It took the exact same amount of time and my process was identical. I just got to save about 2 Q-tips in the cleaning, so no big difference on dirtiness, and the deposits in the barrel weren't wildly different. The dirtier stuff in the gun had dirtier barrels and the cleaner stuff in the gun had cleaner barrels. Still, no big deal. So where do we land? Where does that leave us? Based purely on performance, not even looking at cost on what these things cost. If you maybe pick between these 4 loads, which I would use to train with, to shoot competition with, to whatever you need 9mm for right now, I would probably pick the Blazer aluminum as my cartridge of choice. There's an added benefit that we didn't discuss previously of using aluminum case cartridges, and that is if you go on an airplane and you check a firearm, you're only allowed to bring 11 pounds of ammunition. You can get about 100 more rounds if you use aluminum case versus brass case, so you can fly with more ammo than you could if you just used brass, which is also a nice benefit. But more important than that was the accuracy was acceptable, the reliability was superb, and the consistency was off the charts. The CCI Blazer aluminum was probably the best load that we tested that day from that lot. Now realize that lots vary wildly and your experience may not be the same as what I encountered, but I'm gonna pick up Blazer brass and Blazer aluminum to use on the channel pretty much exclusively on the go forward. If you enjoy this kind of video, sound off in the comments and let me know. Again, thank you to our ammo sponsor, Optics Planet, who this video wouldn't be possible otherwise. If you wanna see more content like this, throw out ideas in the comments, let me know. Maybe we can do something with jacketed hollow points, look at something like that. Throw out your other bro science ideas and I can take a look at them. I appreciate you guys and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys.